good morning, everyone, and welcome to this episode of The Dark Roast. I'm Donna Stroll, and you'll notice that my lovely co host, Rose, is not here today. She is off traveling and being friends and celebrating some new things over there. So we'll miss her, but we must carry on. So today's topic is going to be about niche. Now, we're going to go into a step-by-step process of finding your niche because whether you've been a long-term entrepreneur or you're just starting out, the niche is where everything begins. It is literally the foundation for your business. So, the goal today is to help you figure out how to align your passions with profit and create a business that sustains you financially, but also fulfills you personally. All right, so grab your coffee and let's get started. So, the first thing that you want to do when you're trying to figure out your niche is to do a little self reflection. All right. You're going to sit back and really take a moment to ask yourself some questions like, what really excites me, or what do I truly enjoy? What am I passionate about? Maybe it's some experiences that you've gone through where you think, man, it would be really nice if there was more information about this. Or maybe it's a hobby that you have that you really enjoy, or some skills that you've amassed throughout your experience in the world and through your work or your education, and you've managed to amass some skills that you really enjoy utilizing. These are the questions that you're going to ask yourself, because that's going to help you find a niche that is authentic to who you are, instead of just doing the make money online. Make money online is a great niche. There's lots of great things in it, but it's not for everybody. And so a lot of times when we first get into the online marketing space, we really just jump in feet first because we just want to make money. But we find very quickly that if we decide to start promoting something that doesn't align with who we are, you can get very burnt out very, very fast. So the taking that moment to just stop and think to yourself and ask yourself some hard questions will really help you sort of narrow down what your niche should be and what's going to help you stay focused and be able to stay motivated when motivation has left the building, because it's really hard to work on something when it doesn't align with you. The next thing that you want to do is you want to identify some problems, okay? It's time to think about problems and challenges that people might face in your area of interest. So if you're into gardening, what are some things that are common issues or problems that people have in gardening, especially if they're just starting out, or if you want to appeal to somebody who's more seasoned, then again, what problems would those people have? If it's knitting, again, same thing. Are you thinking about trying to attract beginners, or are you trying to attract somebody who's already in? That will help you sort of narrow down some of the questions that you'll have to ask. What are their pain points? What are their problems? What are the solutions that you can provide? What is something that you feel strongly about serving and helping people in that area? If you can ask those questions to yourself, then you can start creating solutions and building your business around those solutions. And it'll also help you really identify your audience and set yourself apart from others in that niche, whether it's health and wellness, money, or pets, or whatever it is. The next thing that you want to do, and this is a big one, and I think we all sort of forget to do this. I mean, obviously, there's people who don't, but a lot of people do when you first jump in because you're excited to get started. Your wheels are running, you're just ready to go, and you don't do any market research. Now, market research in the old school, this is where I actually started in marketing way, 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 way back, is like doing surveys and, stopping people on the street or sending out mailers. But with social media, and our ability to tap into people's opinions and thoughts in real time, there's some excellent ways to do that. You can go into groups that are in the niche that you're thinking about, connect with them. So if it's a sewing group or a knitting group or a gardening group or a make money online group or whatever, a pet group, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you're thinking about, find some groups that are in that niche and then pay attention to what people are asking. Pay attention to some of the questions they have or some of the problems that they have and see, gather information that way. See what they're interested in, what products they're interested in. If you're going to just do, if it's drop shipping is what you're looking at, find people in your niche and see what products they're looking to buy or things that they're interested in or things that they're sharing, because that'll really help you. You can also do polls. Social media has made it very easy to do polls in multiple different platforms. You can ask questions. You can host Q&As. You can do surveys if you want to. You can do quizzes. There's all sorts of ways to gather people's information that they're willing to provide to you so that you can do market research to see if your niche is even viable. And maybe the area or whatever you're trying to specialize in might not be as viable, but there might be things around that. So don't get discouraged if if you narrow it way down and you find that there isn't necessarily a market for that. It just gives you an opportunity to see, well, let's take a step out, staying within that niche, but maybe expanding it a little bit and seeing other areas where that can be profitable and where you can still maintain your integrity, your authenticity, your enjoyment, but service a wider net. And sometimes there are unmet needs. You will know this yourself. Like you yourself are trying to do something that you've enjoyed, whether it's art, and there's something that's missing where you really wish that that information had been there for you, or you learned something or built something on your own because you just couldn't get the products or services that you needed to do it. So you had to, invent it on your own because necessity is the mother of invention. So, but maybe you can provide that for somebody else in your situation. I know that for myself in publishing, I ended up creating a magazine simply because the type of stories that I wrote, which were horror stories, were too dark for mainstream literary, but not dark enough for a lot of the horror publishers that were out there. And I realized that I couldn't be the only one. And so I created a market for that. And it blew up, and other people started doing it because I wasn't the only one who sort of rode that line in between darkness and light without going to the extreme on either side. And so I created my own niche. And sometimes you can do the same, especially if you're noticing that you're not the only one who was needing something that wasn't there at the time. All right. So now you've gotten through, you've done some self-reflection, you've gone through and looked at the problems and figured out what those problems were. You've done your market research, you've asked the questions, you've sifted through. Now your job is to narrow it down, because I don't know about you, but I am a person who has multiple interests and a very wide array of knowledge and skills. So narrowing that down, this is going to be where you really start to hone in on what truly resonates the most with you, with your passions and values, because that's going to be important, right? How you present yourself is going to be very important. And so those passions and values are what's going to come through when you do your storytelling and when you building your brand and all of those things that we've discussed in the previous. Even when you're doing your video marketing, it's going to make it easier for you to do those sorts of things because you're aligned. So put them all out in front of you. You've narrowed it down to say 2 or 5, but these are the things that you're interested in. And then you need to look at all your market research, take all that information, and then basically trust your instincts. Choose a niche that aligns with who you are and what you stand for. And that's going to be a very personal process for you. Other people can help you, absolutely. There's definitely ways to make the process a little bit easier. But that's going to be the big step for you because this is where it's all going to jump off from here. Now, don't worry if you pick a niche that you think is going to be great, and then you find as you get further into it that maybe it's not quite right for you. You can change. It's okay. It's just like first year university. Okay. A lot of people who go to first year university or college, as it's known down in the States, you take all the courses and you think you're going to get this particular degree, and by the end of year one, you've changed your mind. But that's okay because all that skill and all that knowledge and all those things that you did in the beginning to set up your first niche, you'll be ready to do that again for your next niche, and you will have more information and more knowledge how to gather and make those choices for you. Also, you might find that your niche just needs to be expanded in a different direction. You might still be passionate about one thing, but maybe it just needs to be expanded in a different direction. So, narrowing it down and choosing that niche and then building from there. All right. So, the next step is to elevate profitability. Okay, so balancing your passion with profit is essential for the building a sustainable business. Now, I am a strong advocate of don't turn your hobby into a business. That doesn't mean that if you really enjoy, I don't know, I'm just going to go back to the physical things like crochet. I see a lot of people doing crochet and they're building all these really cute things and everything else. But the thing is that when you turn your hobby into a business, you are limited by several factors. And the number one is time. Okay. So you only have so much time to build and create. So whether it's in art form or writing or music or all of those things like crocheting or knitting or gardening or whatever, woodworking is another good one. If it's the physical product that you're turning into a business, you're going to get burnt out because you can only do so much. You can only create so much. You are limited by the physical constraints of time. Also, you're going to be turning your hobby, something that you love and enjoy, into work. At a certain point, you're going to get tired. And maybe you don't feel like making one more thing today, but you have no choice because you have orders. But there's a way around that, and that is to build out the digital products, the knowledge, the information around your hobby. So you can still do your hobby as you enjoy it, but you can provide information. You can provide how to's, you can provide courses, you can provide products, links to products. You can affiliate for various different programs or products that you use in your hobby that you can share with other people. So you're not turning your hobby specifically into a business, but you're using your passion for your hobby and building out around it. And that will allow for a more sustainable business. So that's really important. The other is to assess the potential profitability of your niche. All right. So is your niche actually going to be profitable? Now, be honest with yourself because just because you have a passion about it, it may be incredibly unique and very narrow. And so it might not have the profitability that you need to build out a sustainable business that's going to last for a long time. So that's where, again, you might have to expand outside of that a little bit instead of being super narrowed down. There's nothing wrong with making sure that your niche is a little wider. You don't want to be just gardening, right? Or you don't want to be just cooking. Your cooking you want to narrow down. So it might be cooking with for vegans, or it might be cooking for single parents, or it might be cooking on a low budget, or it might be cooking with sustainable foraging, all those kinds of things. But again, you have to look at who your niche is and don't narrow it down so much where it's, I'm only cooking for moms of 2 year olds and who are picky eaters, and I'm only using organic and foraged foods. So the more you narrow it down, it might just end up being too narrow and not going to have any profitability in that. But so don't get too tight, but also, make sure that you're not just in the sea with everybody else. It's a sweet spot, and it takes a little bit of time to find that. And part of the way that you do that is literally doing the research and also making sure that there's a balance between passion and profitability. The next step, this is number 6, is to check for longevity. Consider the long-term viability of your niche. Is it a passing trend? Because we have trends coming and going nonstop, especially now with social media. You never know what the next new thing is going to be. Or does it have staying power? Now, that doesn't mean that a new trend is a bad thing, as long as it can be adjusted as you go. You're not, computers were a trend at one point, and there's constantly new things coming up with computers, but the computer itself is a long-term thing. All the various softwares, those are a little bit new if you're only focusing on one, but if software is something that you're working with as part of your niche, software as a service, then as long as it can adapt and build and grow, then you have the staying power that you need. So building a niche with long-term potential will help set you up for success and allow you to build a business for years, not just months. Okay. Um, Step number 7 is assess your own personal expertise. Okay. Your expertise is your greatest asset. Evaluate your knowledge, your skills, your experience in each of the niches that you have, decided that are of interest to you, and then figure out where you feel most confident. Where do you feel capable? And don't let things like imposter syndrome or lack of knowledge slow you down, okay? Because you can always learn more. But starting from a place where you feel more comfortable and confident will help you get your foot out the door faster, okay? So leveraging your strengths will give you a competitive edge also to other people who may not have that experience, but are also in your niche. So you're not trying to best the experts, okay? Because if you already have, or if you're already coming from a place of knowledge and experience, you're already the expert to somebody else. Okay. So maybe you're not an expert seamstress, but you are probably more experienced, if that's something that you want to choose, if that's your hobby, than somebody who's just starting out. So you're already an expert to somebody. So just utilize those skills to help build out that business. Step 8 would be to test the waters. Now, this is the scary part, right? This is where we jump off and we put it out there. So you start small and you experiment and see what's working. You maybe do a pilot project or test a campaign just in a very small circle to gauge the interest. You can ask, again, you can put it out there and see who responds. And sometimes, especially if you're thinking about building a course, ask the questions, are you interested in learning more about this? Would you be interested in taking a course in this and offering it maybe for free or for a lower value for maybe 2 or 3 people so that they can go through it? They can give you feedback. If you want to do it for 5 or 10, that's up to you. But maybe offer it at a reduced price for people who are your first clients, just so that they can take a look and see if it's something that, then they can offer some very good feedback, and they can also provide you testimonials when it goes gangbusters because you're awesome. And of course, you're going to create a good course if you're paying attention and you're staying within your own passions and your education and your experience. All right. So, uh, and then you can make adjustments along the way. You can refine it and refine it and refine it until it's an amazing thing. And then you can make it evergreen and get it out there. And that would be the same thing for how-tos. If you want to do handbooks on, say, identifying different plants or different types of wood, or tools that you need if you're just starting up your wood shop. Like I say, niches are so vast and varied, and you can build so much around it. If you have a brick and mortar business or something that you wanted to do in brick and mortar, say you're a hairdresser, again, you can build out a digital online business all around that for various products, teaching people how to do certain things at home, because not everybody's going to go to a salon. I am a person that spends a lot of time chopping and dyeing my own hair, much to the chagrin of every hairdresser out there, I'm sure. But it's just necessary. It's what I do. It's what I've always done. So building out information that's easily accessible, that people don't mind spending a bit of money for, that's evergreen, that's a way for you to build out some passive income around your skills, your experience, and your knowledge. And then be open to feedback. Okay, so if someone says to you, yeah, nah, it didn't work for me, don't beat yourself up. Don't get angry or upset about that. They're providing you some valuable feedback so that you can ask them questions like, what was it that didn't work for you? What parts do you feel that needed more information or less information? All of those things, because that's going to help you evolve your niche and become even better at whatever you've chosen. All right. And so it's important to embrace flexibility. It's important not to take every feedback that comes your way as a negative statement about you personally. Um, we do tend to internalize a lot of that sometimes, especially if you deal with imposter syndrome or if you're very sensitive to feedback, because some people are, they're just naturally are. And that's just try really hard to remember that it's not an attack on you. They're just trying to give you some information that's going to allow you to do even better, right? To build and grow even better, to pivot where you need to pivot, to add things or take things away and create that niche that is truly you are the master of. All right. So it's important not to let that feedback knock you on your ass. The other thing is the trolls, because there will be trolls. And I know that Rose and I have talked about it before. Don't feed the trolls. All right. Don't feed the trolls because they're just lashing out for a lack on their own side. Okay. So if they don't have anything constructive to offer you, just ignore it. And you have the block button. It's an option. By all means, do it. And then the one of the most important ones, and this is your final step, and that is to commit and take action. All right. So once you've narrowed down your niche, you've chosen your niche, you've done your research, you've tested the waters and everything else, this is where you commit wholeheartedly and take consistent action towards building your online presence within your niche. Stay focused, you stay determined, and never lose sight of what it is you're building and why you're building it. Okay. So whatever that is, don't lose sight of it and stay consistent. Now, consistency is difficult. I have not been consistent this past week simply because I've had some family things that have gone on. We lost my father-in-law, and so there was a lot of work involved in that. Um, so those kinds of things are going to happen. And that's just life. But in general, your goal is to try and stay consistent, whether that's posting once a day, whether it's putting up a blog a week, or more, right? Whatever your consistency level is, make sure that it aligns with who you are and your time availability. Um, so yeah, stay consistent and build that out because people are going to start to recognize you within that niche as someone that they can go to. They're going to recognize you as the expert, as the go-to person when they have questions. And that's what you want, right? That's what you want more than anything else. All right, so that's it, 10 steps. Okay, so I'll go over them really quickly again. Number one is self-reflection. Number two is identify your problems. Number three is market research. Number four is narrow down your options. Number five is evaluate profitability. Number six is to check for longevity. Seven, access your personal expertise and skills. Number eight is test the waters. Number nine is refine and adjust. Don't fear the feedback. And number 10 is to commit and take action. All right. So finding your journey is your niche journey is a lot of self-discovery. All right. And figuring out what you need. So you just follow those steps and you will be able to align your passion with something that is profitable and create a business that is not just going to serve you for the next 3 months, but could be for the next 30 years, if it's adaptable and changeable. Okay. So if you guys are wanting, just hit me up and I can give you a quick checklist, something that you can download and keep for yourself. Just drop an info. I'd be happy to do that for you. Next week, Rose will be back, and I'm thinking that we'll talk about social media marketing. So, the various platforms, content ideas, engagement, how to get people to engage with you, and also what you need to do on your side of the engagement spectrum. All right. So I really appreciate you taking the time with me today, and have a great Friday. Thanks so much, guys.